The Dallas Cowboys could consider trading back in the NFL draft, but maybe not in round one. We'll explain next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolPCB. It's a Monday, so it's a mock draft Monday here in the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Landon, we're going to go into this draft with the idea that the Cowboys are going to trade back, not in round one, but in round two.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite kind of, moves to make when I do these drafts, just because, first of all, I'm trying to get back that fourth round pick. And specifically, I like to try to trade back in the second round to get that fourth round pick, just to give me insurance that if I want to pull the trigger on a running back in that fourth round, which is still really prime real estate for choosing a quality running back, I could still do that. And that still allows me to have the freedom to kind of pick more freely with my first three picks. And then, I think that the kind of other aspect of this strategy too is that usually when I pick a running back in the kind of fourth round, I end up double dipping. I end up going off and getting another guy probably later in the fifth or sixth round as well that I think could kind of complement that player. So I think this is a great way to get a lot of quality players at positions of need while still managing to fill that all important starting, rotation at running back still in the draft.
And one of the things we've seen over recent years is that teams have become more aggressive targeting players inside the top 10, 15 picks of round two. If you look at like last year, you look at the picks 33 to 45, there were 10 trades between those picks. So I think in this draft more than ever, you're going to see teams wanting to go up and try to get their guy before the tier drops off, right? Because we think the first round maybe isn't quite as good as previous years, but it does seem like it has a lot of depth. But I do think it drops off, middle of round two. So I could see teams drafting 55, 60, 65, wanting to move up inside the top 45 to get a guy that maybe they had a 1-2 grade or high round 2 grade. So I think that's why it's very possible Dallas could try to get a deal done like that.
Yeah, and also, since they've added that third day to the draft and really isolated the first round on Thursday, this happened before when it was a 2-day affair. That fourth round, the top of the fourth round pick became award adding, as they call it. Like everybody wanted that fourth round pick because they had the opportunity to sleep overnight and kind of reevaluate their boards. Now it's happening in the second round as well, right? Because you have the first round on Thursday, you get a night to kind of sleep on it, recheck your board, kind of see how aggressive you want to be. And I agree. I think you see a lot of these trades happening before you get back on the clock on Friday, Thursday night. If you're scrambling, you see that someone's kind of made it all the way through the first round. You see some of these teams kind of trying to make deals so that they can get back up at the top of the second round to get some of the guys that they perceive to be falling.
And I think like if you have a contender like Kansas City or Buffalo, Philadelphia, Washington, I think they're going to be aggressive trying to get up and get a guy that they think can make an impact right away. So that's why teams that are holding a top 45 pick could be in a really good spot. So let's play out a mock, Landon, where we try to trade back from round two. But before we get there, we got to make our round one pick. So let's go ahead and start this mock draft. If you're watching with us on YouTube, we're using the Pro Football Focus mock draft simulator.
Wow.
And we're going to just play this out like we think the Cowboys would draft. So usual guys go in the first top 11 picks. Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Will Campbell to the Giants at 3, Mason Graham at 4, Abdul Carter falls to 5, Ashton Genty off the board to the Raiders at 6, Shedeur Sanders to the Jets at 7, poor Shedeur, Armand Membu to the Panthers at 8, Matthew Golden, a little bit of a surprise selection, goes to the Saints at 9, Tyler Warren goes to the Bears at 10, and then Jahdae Barrett, the corner/safety, goes to the 49ers at pick 11. Cowboys are sitting at a good spot here, Landon, at pick 12. Tetairoa McMillan is on the board here at number 12. You also have Will Johnson, Luther Burden, Mike Green, Emeka Buke, Omari and Hampton if you absolutely need to reach several spots on a running back, Landon. Who do you want to pick here?
I mean, I feel like Tet McMillan makes the most sense, right? I mean, I hate to kind of continually draft this guy, but if he falls to us, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's great to see Luther's name kind of being mentioned closer up here, right? Like it feels like his name falling more and more at different points, but it seems like maybe he's creeping back up. We've kind of gone through the different machinations of people at the first round pick, so we don't need to kind of get anything exotic here. I think we just take Tet and then we kind of continue on with our journey.
Yeah, and one of the things for me, I was doing some research this morning. Over the last 3 years, there have been 22 wide receivers selected inside the top 40. Okay, so that's 7.3 receivers for the draft. You look at this class. How many receivers in this class, Landon, do you think could walk in on day one and be the wide receiver 2 for Dallas? Is it more than 4?
I walk in, probably 4 is the number, right? Maybe 5, right?
If you're talking about like Jaden Higgins being the 5th.
Yeah, probably. But even then, I think I'd still like to see him come in there and kind of, get some reps in camp before I'm, anointing.
Well, and that's the thing for me. It's like we've been saying this all offseason. We think the biggest need on this roster is to get a secondary passing option, right? To pair with CeeDee Lamb. I just don't think you can wait until 44 to do it. I think there's going to be a run on these receivers from picks 20 to 35. And by the time the Cowboys are on the clock at pick 44, it might be Jack Besh and Kyle Williams and Jalen Royals. And I like those players, but none of them move the needle all that much for me. So I would rather take my receiver early and then address other positions later because I don't see them getting a number 2 receiver at that spot.
I think this is the way to phrase it, right? Is that secondary pass catcher is the most important entity that the Cowboys are going after that will be solved by one pick, right? Like yes. There are other, you can go and get pass rush. We need running backs. We need a running game to be cobbled together. Both of those you can kind of cobble together with multiple players if you need to, a rotation of players. But that secondary pass catcher, you need a singular talent, and those are rare to find, and you can only find those top, your first pick, maybe your second pick. But as Marcus is just pointing out, even the second pick is kind of a dicey, it's a dice roll, right? You don't know if they're going to make it or not.
Nope. And again, there's likely going to be at least 6 receivers gone before the Cowboys are on the clock at pick 44. You have to feel really good about somebody falling to you there. And I don't anticipate that being the case. So the Cowboys pick Tetairoa McMillan here at number 12 in our mock draft. Later, let's get to day 2 with the Cowboys. We're going to try to make the Cowboys trade down from pick 44. We've got multiple trade offers. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. But now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today, an expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so that you can focus on your day, an expert who will find you every deduction possible, file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Make sure you check out tomorrow's show. We're going to be talking about 3 running backs that the Cowboys can target in the mid-rounds, including one that Landon and I both really, really love. So make sure you tune in for that. But later, let's get to day 2 of this mock draft. We've got McMillan. We're on the board here at 44, and there's some good players available. Siobhan Revelle. We've got Xavier Watts, TJ Sanders, Jaden Higgins. Maxwell Harrison. But let's try to make a trade back.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons you want to trade back is that you look at all the great players that are there, right? There's a lot of really good stuff. So, yeah, definitely looking to see what's available here, and it looks like it's a pretty big trade back they're asking for.
Yeah,
here.
going back to 68. So this would be the top of the third round. This is our highest trade. So in this situation, or in this trade offer, you would get pick 68, 68, 108, 143, and a probably 2026 third round pick.
Yeah, it's a pretty serious move back. But I think if you're getting multiple picks, you're getting one that's just outside of the top 100 at top of, as well as 68. I think this is probably a good trade for the Cowboys because you're still going to get good value.
We could try to move back with a team like the Bills. Maybe the Bills are coming up for somebody. You could get pick 56 and 109 and probably 132 for pick 44. Would you rather do that?
I think I probably would, just because I think the move back would be less severe. I don't want to go all the way back because honestly, it's 68. It's almost like now it's time to start thinking about running backs again, right? So yes. I think, I like that too.
All right, here's a different variation. So the Cowboys move back from 44 to 56, but then they move up from 76 to 62. So you're jumping up 14 spots there. And you're adding pick 109 in there. So the top of the fourth round.
So Dallas gets 56, 62, 109, and then we send away 44 and 76.
Yes.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, let's do that. Let's do it. All right. So the Bills are on the clock now. They moved up in this one from Braden Swinson. They want to get more edge rush help. All the corners off the board that we talked about, but now the Cowboys back on the clock here at pick 56. Landon, let's look at some running backs. You have Tetairoa Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Scatterbo. I don't know if Henderson will fall this far, but I think Judkins might.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, is that you've traded back right into prime running back spots, but you don't have to take a running back here. If there's someone else that you like that's at the top of the spot, you still could wait, especially since you've got 62. If there's someone else that you like, that is as kind of a blinking light at this point at the top of the draft, you certainly could. So let's say, like, for instance, you didn't go see, Alfred Collins is a very interesting name right there, right? And CJ West is there. Like, I think that there's like, let's say you didn't go wide receiver in the first round, right?
You went Jalen Williams. Yeah.
Would say Mike. Or let's say you went Michael Williams. I like that, right? You've got lots of great receivers. I think I saw Higgins is still available at the top too.
The top receivers available: Jalen Royals, Kyle Williams, Trey Harris. Higgins is gone at this point.
Higgins is gone. Sorry. But yeah, there's tons of great players at the top if you wanted to wait. So I think at this spot, like, I don't know that there's anyone that I love more than like having my choice of running back at this point. I personally would take Tetairoa Henderson over these guys. But
let's assume he's off the board because I don't see him following that.
Then take Judkins.
Okay. Yeah, let's take Judkins. So you end up with McMillan and Judkins. I don't know if your offense got any faster this offseason, but you got two playmakers.
Yeah.
But the Cowboys right back on the board here at pick 62. And now that you've addressed your wide receiver and your running back need, you can kind of just start taking some best players available or players that you think fit really well. Again, this is the pick that we moved up from 76. So the Cowboys won't pick again into the fourth round. But if you want to get somebody like Alfred Collins to add a defensive tackle to your running back room, I think that makes a lot of sense. Mason Taylor is a really good tight end. I think Cowboy fans would kill us if we drafted another tight end. But that one's at least go ahead.
I think it's probably tough to take another offensive player here.
I would agree. Yes.
Especially if you're having to wait, through your third round. So, and your fourth, right? So,
our fourth round pick is 109 because
109. Okay. So we got about a little bit over a round. So I would say you should take a defensive player. Look, I think Collins makes a lot of sense. Depending on how they feel about Benjamin Morrison, like, can he play some slot? Maybe, like, can he be a nickel guy? I would probably take Collins.
Alfred Collins would be an easy pick for me, right? Like, this is, you're getting him at the bottom of round 2. You don't need him to be an instant starter. You need him to come in and play like 15 to 18 snaps a game. This is where you draft that guy.
Yeah, and I think he would come in and be an impact on those downs, right? He's immediately upgrading your run defense in a way that not a lot of draft picks have, when they've come into the Cowboys. So I think that and it gives you an opportunity to be even more flexible with Mozzie and allow him to play however you want to play him. I do think that it makes a ton of sense to take Collins here. And kind of give a shot in the arm to your run defense, which is still, you're still a little bit concerned about. This would kind of help really, really stabilize things.
Yeah, and at corner, there are some options. You mentioned Benjamin Morrison. Then there's a pretty big drop-off after that. Dorian Strong, Jacob Parrish, Kobe Bryant. These are all guys I think of more as like day 3 options.
Yep.
Morrison's probably the best one there, but I don't know. Listen, you're talking about somebody who's had multiple hip surgeries. That always makes me a little nervous.
Well, and now we're talking about also playing him specifically at nickel, which even more than safety, I would say, you got to flip your hips, right? Yeah. Like if guys get vertical on you. So, I would say for me, it's Collins just because he gives you a high floor, immediately improves that defense. And there's still some players available at 100, probably 110 or whatever our pick is, that if you wanted to go get another kind of, guy that fits the nickel, I bet you could find somebody.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get to that 4th round. Then we'll finish up with day 3. But listen, I think this is a very realistic type of trade that could happen. And we're going into day 3 of the draft, Landon, with Tetairoa McMillan, Quinshon Judkins, and Alfred Collins. Who's going to be upset with that draft? You've got 3 guys that you feel like can come in right away and give you high impact snaps.
Yeah, your offense definitely got better, and your defense, maybe you didn't raise the ceiling on your defense, but you definitely raised the floor, and that's maybe more important for the defense to kind of just make sure that run defense floor is nice and high.
All right, so we're at pick here, 109. This is the pick we got from the Bills in our trade back. Now that we get into day 4, you're really just looking to fill out certain positions. So with our wide receiver, running back, and defensive tackle need addressed, which spots are you looking at now?
I mean, at this point, we're just looking to draft BPA. I think, there's definitely some positions in which you wouldn't mind hitting. But I don't think that you're necessarily like, I think we should look at defensive end just because, the depth of this class is incredible. I wouldn't be shocked to see a linebacker go here. They've been sniffing around a couple of linebackers above this. So I wouldn't be surprised that they looked at that as well.
Yeah, let's look at some of the best available linebackers. It's Jeffrey Bassa, who I actually like quite a bit.
I like all 3 of those guys, honestly.
Yeah, I thought Bassa potentially could have been a 3rd round pick, but he kind of had a not great combine.
But surprising combine is what it was, right?
But I think he's somebody that projects as like a weak side linebacker in the NFL. And with Overshown having multiple knee injuries, I don't think that's a bad pick right there. My guy, Danny Stutzman, still available. If you want to take a linebacker.
Maybe we wait on linebacker then, because I do think that there's a couple guys that are still there. Let's just look at the overall board real quick, if we could.
Sure. Oops.
Already getting excited about my guy, Danny Martinez.
Kyle Williams.
Talk about him. We'll talk about him soon.
Harold Fannin Jr., Will Howard, if you wanted to add a quarterback, Aeneas Peebles, Billy Bowman, Kobe Bryant, I think is a really interesting slot option.
I think Jamari Caldwell is a guy that if we hadn't just taken Collins, that I would be like, yes, let's take a look at him, because I do think, and I'm starting to really doubt whether he falls this far, because he has become everybody's favorite late to middle round nose tackle plug. So I have a feeling that he's going to get taken a little bit higher than that. Hey, can we scroll back up?
Sure.
There's a guy right there, Noel Williams, who plays for Cal, right? I love the way this dude plays. Just scrappy. I don't know that his athleticism is exactly what the Cowboys are normally looking for, but when you watch the guy play, he's just very solid. He's got the height and the weight, but if I remember correctly, his arms are a little bit shorter than the normal. But this is definitely a guy who could play on the outside. He's physical. You watch him against some of the better wide receivers that he faced, and he had really solid games. I had a really solid game, if I remember correctly, against Hunter at one point. Just a guy that, if you're looking to kind of give you solid depth on the outside, I think he probably is someone that you're playing a lot of man coverage, maybe in the silo a little bit, and some one and some cover three. But I think he's a guy that could, improve your talent on the outside.
All right, so let's go ahead and pick him. The Cowboys obviously have to add more cornerback help this offseason. We know they need a slot, but at this point in the draft, maybe that's just not there. They just grab the best available corner, and then they figure it out as the season goes along. Let's finish up the rest of day 3 here and kind of recap our thoughts of this day 2 trade back mock. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. But that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, and your spending in one place. So you can stop managing your money and start building your wealth. I started using Monarch Money a couple months ago, and I realized how much money I was wasting on stupid stuff like food delivery, football cards, whatever. But now I'm budgeting smarter and I'm saving more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Draft Show with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. Now that the season is over, get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day, and find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Landon, one of my things I'm starting to believe here is that the Cowboys are going to use the first, let's say, 2 of their first 3 picks on offense to try to get starters, likely at wide receiver and at running back. And then I feel like on day 3, with all of these picks they have, that's when they're going to target depth on defense and just throw a bunch of picks on the defensive side of the ball to kind of fill in the holes on the roster.
Yeah, because if you look at the roster, the Cowboys don't need numbers on the offensive side of the ball, right? No. Like a lot of the teams struggle to kind of backfill the offensive line depth on their teams. That's where the numbers kind of come in. You have so many guys that need to come in, or tight ends, right? Because you play so many of them. Cowboys are very deep at both positions as far as bodies go. So yes, we can really focus on peppering the defense, filling in talent where we need to. So we're here at pick 149 in the 5th round, and you've got linebackers, pulled up here, and it makes sense, right? This is kind of the area the Cowboys have a bunch of these guys. This is really going to be about preference and about which of these guys, you kind of like, because I don't know about you. I think Stutzman is a guy that sticks out in this list because I think I like him and you can get him a little bit later. But honestly, all these guys kind of fit, a certain type depending on what you're looking for.
Yeah, you're getting guys that can be spot starters or good backups at the linebacker position. They just need more linebacker depth. They've got Overshown, who's injured. They've got Kenneth Murray on a 1-year deal. They've got Damone Clark on a 1-year deal. They've got Jack Sanborn on a 1-year deal. They just need more young depth.
So let's talk about Kobe King, who's a guy we haven't really discussed a ton in this class. I think he's a guy that, because of Abdul Carter, was often overlooked, right? He's to me, will you look at the first look section right there real quick?
Sure.
To me, if you look at that size, right, he's 6'1", 248. I don't know if those were his combine numbers. He may have come in a little bit light of that. But I think that's probably close to what you saw him play at. And I think he is more of an interior guy, more of a thumper type. I'm assuming he'll be able to play special teams as well. But to me, he
6'1",
is more
236 at the combine.
Yeah, makes sense, right? Kind of slim down to get that speed down to see what he could get. What you have it there? What did he run his 40 at?
He didn't run at the combine. I don't think Penn State's had their pro day yet, have they?
Oh, yes, I don't know, but go ahead and mark him as a 4.34, I assume.
It's true. Penn State does 4.69 at 243, which is, you're sub 4.7 at 240 pounds. It's fine. That's an NFL linebacker.
above 4.7 at 230 because he's at Penn State he's running a sub 4.7. But yeah, I mean, but look, that's why he's available here, right? Is that he's not super high end athlete, but between the tackles, sorting it out, what's happening with at the line of scrimmage, just getting off blocks, making tackles. That's where this guy thrives. Look at that run defense. That kind of tells the tale a little bit. This is a guy that comes in to kind of really sniff out the run. He's not necessarily going to be like some of the other linebackers you have on your squad. That's maybe why I think he's somebody the Cowboys should consider. I think that Stutzman kind of falls into a similar category than this. I mean, he is a little bit more of an athlete, but I would view Stutzman as a bigger, kind of more athletic, slightly more athletic version of King, where I trust him mostly between the tackles and kind of making tackles in the box. I think Stutzman might have a little more special teams value as well. But I think, if you're looking for somebody to come in and play actual snaps, you probably want King. If you're looking for somebody who's going to be a solid backup and give you a lot of great special teams looks, that's probably more Stutzman. Do you have any thoughts about the Codys or Jay Higgins?
They're okay. I like King and Stutzman better. Let's take Kobe King here and we'll move on. But again, I think this is what we're anticipating. The Cowboys are just going to throw lots of numbers. And honestly, I think there's some good talent here for guys that can become solid backups. I'm going to go to a couple other spots now that we've addressed linebacker. If you want to try to get your slot corner, on day 3, I think you could do that. If you wanted to try to go get some more defensive line help, Ethan Downs from Oklahoma is somebody that I kind of like a little bit. Fidel Diggs is an edge rusher from Syracuse, 6'5", 261. If you're just looking for like that body type, if you're looking at just the best overall players available here that are on the defensive side of the ball, you have to scroll down a little bit. Tonka Hemingway from South Carolina is there. Anybody else stand out to you?
Caleb Ransall, I like a lot from Tulane. I think he could also play in the slot if you needed him to a little bit. He's a little bit bigger, but
he's a nickel defender. Yep.
Yeah, but I think if you needed him to kind of play in the slot and then potentially eventually move back to safety, you could do that.
Let's take him.
Okay, yeah.
So again, we're not going to do the whole draft here because the Cowboys have so many picks, but the idea here, Landon, is that a round 2 trade back seems very feasible. And man, every time I do one of these, whether you're picking up like an additional 3rd round pick or 4th round pick, or you're moving up in the 3rd round with your current pick, I end up really liking the draft, even sometimes more so than trading back from 12 to 20, because you're still getting I don't know, do you call McMillan a blue chip player or an elite 1st round player, whatever you want to call it? I just like the way that its sequence is better this way.
Yeah, agreed. I think that if you're gonna trade back and ultimately get similar compensation, in your trade back, because look, I mean, the truth of the matter is, if you're thinking about trading back at 12, you don't want to trade back too far, right? Because I do think that the talent plateaus, but it does feel like we're seeing a little bit of like mini stepping, right? That's happening. Like, obviously there's some blue chip players, and then there's probably a small plateau just outside the blue chip players. And then really from like the bottom, from like 20 all the way through the 2nd round to the top of the 3rd round, it feels like that's kind of the really long plateau. So that's why trading back in the 2nd as opposed to the 1st is appealing. You could still get that maybe 2nd tier of player at 12, and then you're not losing a ton of quality if you move back even as much as 7 or 8 picks in the 2nd round, and then getting another possibly maybe even 2, depending on how you work it, top 100 picks out of that. I think is incredibly appealing, and it allows you the flexibility to feel like you can go get those, like that running back and wide receiver piece that you need, but still being able to add the talent and defense, and really just give the 3rd day to the defense.
And the last thing I want to mention this again, I think teams like Philadelphia, Buffalo, Kansas City, they're just not as concerned about the depth in the roster. And that's because they've got really good teams, right? So for them jumping from 62 to 44 and losing a 3rd round pick just isn't that big of a deal for them if they can go up and get an impact starter on defense, or maybe Buffalo is trying to come up and get a running back because James Cook is on the final year of their deal, and they want to go up and grab Trevion Henderson. Again, I'm just making this up. I think you're going to have plenty of trade back options when they get on the clock at 44. And it might seem like a big drop to go from 44 to 60, especially with some of the names that are on the board. But man, if you can pick up that additional third round pick, I think for a team like Dallas that so desperately needs to improve kind of the middle class of their roster could benefit from it.
Yeah, and just real quick, clearly the Cowboys have set themselves up for this, right? Like that's why they've kind of worked on the bottom end of their roster by giving them high end kind of bottom of the roster folks and not spending a ton of cash. They clearly have high end starters that they're paying a ton of money. The middle part of that roster, that's what they're hoping to kind of fill in with these picks, still on cheap deals, but getting high quality young talent at these spots. On cheap rookie deals. That's what the Cowboys are looking for coming out of this draft.
All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen of the day. Again, at tomorrow's show, we're going to take a look at some, what do you want to call them, third, fourth round running backs that the Cowboys could target, maybe even a little bit more for one of those guys. So make sure you tune in for that. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on X at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow.